Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to the Commish report for the Pro Football Fantasy League that I am the commissioner for, called the League of Shiva. Well, the first week of playoffs are in the book, and in this episode we are going to review and recap the first week of the playoffs from NFL Week 14, as well as preview Week 2 of our playoffs, which of course would be happening in NFL Week 15. A lot to talk about here this week, so let's jump right in. We had two matchups for Week 1 of the playoffs, while my Big Fat 77s and Doug's The Doug Tater Ship were on first-round bye weeks. Both matchups had very respectable numbers, so there are, again, no poop matchups this week, because, of course, it's the playoffs. All four teams did very well, and here are the results, starting with the battle of the 3rd seed and the 6th seed. That would be the number 3 Philly Cheesesteaks beating the Google This All the Way, which were the number 6 seed, 124 to 111. This matchup was a pretty close matchup for the entire week. Chris's Google This All the Way came up a little bit short, but in my last commish report, I showed what both teams had set as their starting lineups at that point in the week. And at that time, Chris had Tony Romo in. He actually made a change to the quarterback position before Sunday, and Monday that is, and wound up playing Arizona quarterback Carson Palmer, much to his detriment. Palmer wound up with only 16 points, as Romo would have ended up having 22 points, but that was on his bench. Also, Chris had Reggie Bush in his starting lineup, who wound up being a game day scratch, so a big goose egg there. Regardless, though, Jeff's Philly Cheesesteaks had enough points to beat Chris outright, even if he had made those changes to his lineup. Jeff had some major points from wide receiver Josh Gordon, who got him 31 points in his swing spot. He also got 26 points from Antonio Brown and 25 points from his running back Bobby Rainey. The icing on the cake, however, was the 17 points that he got on Monday night from wide receiver Brandon Marshall. Chris also had Alshon Jeffrey going on Monday night, but only got 14 points there. At one point on Monday night, Chris had pulled within 3 points of Jeff, but could not finish the job. So Google This All the Way, now done for the season, with the exception of playing in the 5th place game in Week 16. Philly Cheesesteaks move on to the second round of the playoffs, which will be starting this week. The other matchup of last week was the battle of the 4th and 5th seed. That would be the 5th-seeded New Hampshire Madmen beating out the 4th-seeded Some Things You Can't Unsee Bros 150 to 112. So that goes to Dave's New Hampshire Madmen. Timmy's the Some Things You Can't Unsee Bros had a really rough week. He still managed to put up 112 points, but his issue was that his bench actually outscored his entire starting lineup. His bench actually scored 134 points, and he only put 112 points up for the actual starting lineup he had. He did get 41 points from quarterback Drew Brees, but the story was his bench. Leaving 134 points on your bench, you're not going to win any matchup, and I know he knows that. If Timmy had played his optimal lineup, he would have actually wound up scoring 182 points, which would have been more than enough to beat Dave's New Hampshire Madmen. This did not come to pass. Timmy went with Seahawks defense, who only got him 6 points, and should have played the Chiefs defense, who wound up with 28 points on his bench. He also played running back Chris Johnson, who got him 8 points, and should have played Shane Vereen, who got a whopping 26 points in that crazy Browns-Patriots game this past Sunday, in which the Patriots came from behind to win. Also in that crazy Patriots comeback, Timmy left Jordan Cameron on his bench and would have gotten 23 points from him. So, just a little side note here. I've been good friends with Timmy for a very long time, and I know for a fact he was probably throwing stuff at his TV in anger this past Sunday. As for Dave's New Hampshire Madmen, a very respectable score of 150 points, and was more than enough to move on in these playoffs. Dave made me eat my words, since in my last commish report, I was questioning his decision to play quarterback Josh McCown on Monday night instead of going with maybe Robert Griffin III or Russell Wilson, who Russell Wilson had gotten him pretty good points the last week of the regular season. But he made me eat my words, because Josh McCown wound up with the highest points in the entire league in Week 14, with a phenomenal 51-point performance on Monday night's game against the Cowboys. Last year, Dave went on to win the Shiva Bowl as the 6th seed, so he kind of snuck in there in the final week of the regular season and then wound up going on to win the entire thing. This year, he is the 5th seed and is one win away from going to the Shiva Bowl. But the road to the Shiva Bowl will yet again go through his rival. That's right, my Big Fat 77s. Timmy's Some Things You Can't Unsee Bros, now done for the season, will take on the Google This All the Way in the 5th place game in Week 16 as Dave's New Hampshire Madmen will face me next week in the semifinals. So, the quarterfinals are in the books, and the semifinals are set to kick off this week. Let's now go ahead and take a look at the 2 matchups in the championship bracket, and then we'll also take a quick look at the consolation bracket as well and the road to the Sacco Bowl. So, here it is, the championship bracket. So here's what the championship bracket looks like after week 1 of the playoffs. As you can see, my number 1 seeded Big Fat 77s are set to take on Dave's 5th seeded New Hampshire Madmen. Also, the number 2 seed, Dictatorship, takes on the 3rd seeded Philly Cheesesteaks. Now let's take a look deeper into these 2 matchups. So looking here at the matchup between my Big Fat 77s and Dave's New Hampshire Madmen, this will be the 3rd time that we meet during the 2013 season. We met in Week 7 when we tied at 102 points. I edged out Dave in that matchup by the quarterback spot, actually winning that matchup in Week 7. And then we met again in Week 13 to finish up the regular season. In that matchup, Dave's New Hampshire Madmen actually wound up coming from behind to win 107-105. So the 2 times we met this year, we've only been separated by a collective 2 points. Anything can happen, of course. However, at the time that I'm recording this Commish report, the projections are in my favor, as you can see here. So far, I'm projected for 158 points to his 129 points. Thursday night's Broncos-Chargers game will have a huge impact on this matchup, as I, of course, have Peyton Manning, Julius Thomas, and the Broncos defense going, and I will most likely be playing Danny Woodhead in my swing spot. So half my team will be done before the weekend even begins. As it stands right now, Dave has Keenan Allen going on Thursday night, unless he makes any changes to his lineup. All I'm going to say to wrap up my preview of our matchup is that I know it's going to be a good one, and may the best team win. I'm just hoping that the best team is my team, and that I wind up being the best one this week. Both of us are 1 win away from payday, and it should be a good one to watch. Moving on to the Philly Cheesesteaks taking on the Dictatorship. This will also be an intense matchup that really could go either way. As I stated earlier, Jeff's Philly Cheesesteaks were victorious in the quarterfinals, and Dictatorship is coming off his first round bye week with the hopes of making it to the Shiva Bowl. I actually spoke with Doug on Facebook earlier this week, and he was talking about how he was really happy that he had a bye week in the first round, since a lot of his players actually had a rough week in Week 13 in that considerably weather-driven week, and had he played this past week, there was a good possibility he would have lost. As it stands right now, NFL.com projections have Philly Cheesesteaks with a slight advantage over the Dictatorship, 136-121, although both teams have players currently on their bench with respectable projections. I'm willing to bet, though, that these 2 lineups you see here are the ones that Doug and Jeff will actually go with. But obviously there is a lot of time between now and Sunday, and things could always change. This semifinal matchup will also begin on Thursday night's Broncos-Chargers game. Doug has Broncos running back Noshawn Moreno going, as well as his swing player, Charger running back Ryan Matthews. Jeff counters on Thursday with San Diego tight end Antonio Gates. So ultimately, Friday morning, there will be significant numbers already on the board. So there you have it, folks. The matchups are set, and I know I'm ready for some fantasy football playoffs to continue. I was sitting there all day this past Sunday, glad that I didn't have to be playing, but except the fact that my team had put up a big 139 points. Problem is, the team I'm going up against this week put up 150 points last week, so I'm definitely nervous about this week. He also beat me by 2 points to end the regular season, so I'm definitely kind of shaking in my boots a little bit. I definitely can't wait for week 2 of the playoffs to get underway. I know personally that I'm hoping next week I'm reporting that my team is the team going to the Shiva Bowl. But that's it for the championship bracket. But there's something else. Oh yeah, that's right, the Sacco Bowl. Let's take a look at what the consolation bracket looks like, which will also be kicking off this week. Okay, here's the consolation bracket. So Linda's Hump Day Camels will be taking on my mother Deb's Nocho Cinco team for the 3rd time this year. This time, the only thing on the line is avoiding being in the Sacco Bowl. The other 2 teams hoping to win this week and not be in the Sacco Bowl are Dan's The Mile High Social Club taking on my brother John's Binghamtons. The 2 winning teams will play against each other in Week 16 to decide 7th place for 2013, as the 2 losing teams will move on to the Sacco Bowl. The Sacco Bowl, of course, will decide 9th and 10th place. So that means that the loser of that matchup would become the 2013 League of Shiva Sacco. Phew. So there's a lot on the line for all of us in the League of Shiva as the playoffs continue. Thanks for watching the Week 2 playoff special Commish report. Be sure to join me next week for the Shiva Bowl preview special. Good luck to all the teams with a lot on the line this week, and I'll see you later.